Hey gang, and welcome back. These videos are brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your unused collection fast and easily. 401 Games, Canada's top shop for all your hobby and TCG needs. Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest decks. And Moxfield, the easiest way to store and share your deck lists. Seb wins the die roll and starts us off. They draw, play an untapped Overgrown Tomb, taking 2, and cast Birds of Paradise. I draw and get to play the Lair of the Hydra untapped and pass. Max just has a forest. Felix draws and plays a tapped Canopy Vista. Seb's turn has a swamp coming in and they pay 2 for Rampant Growth, going to find a basic forest and passing. My turn has a Thran Portal coming in and I name Blue, and I then cast a Wonderscape Sage. As it resolves, I pass turn. Max draws, plays a mountain, and casts a Calny Heart Expedition. Felix's turn has Rogue's Passage coming in, and he pays 2 for Nature's Lore. He goes to find a tapped Jetmir's Garden, and ships the turn to Seb. Seb's got a Deathcap Glade for turn, and then pays enough for Savra, and passes once they resolve. I've got a Basilisk Gate for turn, and cast one of the best cards in the deck with Sage of the Maze. Maxim draws, and plays a Shivan Reef, and he gets to put a counter onto the expedition from the landfall trigger. He then casts a Gruul's Signet, and follows up with an Arcane Signet, and passes. Felix plays Kadama's Reach, putting a forest into play, and putting a plains to hand, which he plays for turn. Seb's turn has them playing a Sakura Tribe Elder, and they then cast an Oathsworn Vampire. They ship it after that. I use the Sage of Maze in my main phase, and tap the Basilisk Gate to untap it for 4 mana, and then cast an Oracle of Moldiah. I then get to play a Maze's End from my hand, and I pass turn. Max's main phase has him playing a Tireless Provisioner, and then an Island for turn, which gets him a landfall trigger and makes him a treasure. He also gets to put a counter onto the expedition, and once that's done, follows up with loot and passes. Felix draws, plays a forest, and casts 3 visits. He goes to find a Cinder Glade, and then casts an Enduring Courage. After that, he passes, with Seb sacrificing their Sakura Tribe Elder during the end step, and gains 2 life of Savra, and goes to find a basic. Seb's turn has them drawing and casting Bolas' Citadel. They then play a Carrion Feeder off the top, taking 1, and then a Woodland Cemetery. They then continue off the top of their library with a Tevish Zat, losing more life. They then uptick Tevish Zat, making 2 Thrall tokens. Seb's Citadel turn then stops there, and with nothing else, they pass turn. My turn has me drawing, and I then make 6 mana from the Sage of Maze, untapping it with some gates. I then use 5 of it to play Mirage Mirror, and activate it once it's out to become a copy of Bolas' Citadel. I then play Nature's Lore off the top, losing 2 to go and find a forest, and then cast a Dune Chanter off the top, losing 3. I then play an Island for turn, and I continue by casting Pongify off the top, and target Savra. Seb responds by sacrificing a Thrall token to the Carrion Feeder, and pays the life to have Savra's trigger make everyone sacrifice a creature. They then do it again. With that ability on the stack, I activate the Wonderscape Mage to the second ability, drawing some cards and bouncing the Thran Portal back to my hand before sacrificing the Mage. Seb then continues sacrificing the Oathsworn Vampire as well, and loses some life, and then decides to sacrifice the board entirely by sacrificing Savra to get my last creature. I then go on to cast a Ramunap Excavator off the top, losing 3, and then a Clever Impersonator as a copy of the Enduring Courage. I then continue by casting Curse of Swine, putting 0 into the X and losing 2, and I then cast Omo, putting the Everything counter onto her and an island. Since she gets +2/+0 in haste from the Enduring Courage, I then go to combat. I swing her at max for 3, and he takes the hit for 3, while I put the counters onto the Enduring Courage and Forest, and pass. Max draws for turn, and casts a Rampaging Baloth, and then plays a Mountain, which makes him a Beast token. He also gets to put his final counter onto the Calny Heart Expedition, sacrificing it and going to find 2 basics, which, as they enter, make 2 more beasts. He then passes to Felix. Felix draws, plays a Plains, and casts an Incubation Druid. He follows up by casting Aragorn, and he goes to combat. He swings his commander at me, and the Incubation Druid at Seb, and we both take our hits. Both creatures then get a +1/+1 counter from the Renown trigger, and Felix passes turn. Seb draws and casts Cultivate off of the Bolas' Citadel, losing 3. They then uptick Tevesh Zat for 2 more Thrall tokens, and then play a Forest from off the top of their library. With that done, they then cast Beledros, their commander, and pass to me. I draw, and Seb makes a Pest token on my upkeep, and will continue to do so for the rest of the game as long as Beledros is out. I then make my Mirage Mirror into a copy of the Bolas' Citadel again, since that works so well, and I cast Growth Spiral off the top, putting a Glimmer Post into play, and gaining some life. I then play a Replication Technique off the top, and I choose Felix to demonstrate with. This has him copying the Enduring Courage, while I copy 2 of my forests. I then play out a Hydroid Crassus, putting 2 into the X, and get to draw 2 cards. I then play a Springheart Nantuku, and then cast Hour of Promise off the top of my library. I get a Cloud Post and a Baldur's Gate from it, and I then cast an Alpha status on the Hydroid Crassus. Going to combat, I swing Omo at Felix and the Crassus at Seb, putting the Everything counter onto the Crassus and a copied forest. Seb then sacrifices everything except for Beledros, but then takes the hit in full and drops to 1. With nothing else, I pass. Max's turn has him playing Green Sleeves, and he then plays a forest for turn, making a Beast and a Badger. He follows it up with Loot again, and he goes to combat. He swings the Rampaging Baloth and 2 Beast tokens at me, and I block the Baloth, but still get taken out. Max then passes the turn, with Felix casting Eladamri's Call in the end step, and going to find God Eternal Ronus, and puts it to hand. Felix's turn has him drawing, and casting Ronus' Monument. He then casts Ozolith the Shattered Spire. He follows it up with God Eternal Ronus, and gives Aragorn the Monument trigger, and then goes to combat. He swings Aragorn and Ronus at Max, who chumps Ronus and blocks Aragorn with 2 Beast tokens. Max still takes 6 from Aragorn having Trample, and with nothing else, Felix passes. Seb draws and plays a Verdant Catacombs off the top, and they then cast Drivnod. They then uptick Tevesh Zat, sacrificing a Pest token and drawing 2 cards and gaining 2 life. They then follow up by casting Golgari's Signet, and then a Lightning Greaves, which they then move on to Beledros. They pass after that. Max exiles his top 2 cards off of Loot, and then draws for turn. He plays an Oracle of Moldiah from exile, and then casts the Strionic Resonator from his hand. He plays a Yavimaya Coast from exile, and with it entering, he gets a landfall trigger from the Baloth, which he then copies by activating the Strionic Resonator, resulting in 2 Beast tokens. Max then casts a Bloom Tender, and he passes after that. Felix's turn is quite quick, as he draws for turn, and then activates the Ozolith to put 2 +1/+1 counters onto Aragorn. He then passes to Seb. Seb's turn has them drawing, and playing a Swamp off the top of their library. They then uptick Tevesh Zat, sacrificing another Pest token to draw 2 cards and gain some life. With nothing else, Seb passes. Max copies his Loot trigger to exile his top 4 cards on his upkeep thanks to the Resonator, and he then draws for turn. He plays Omnath, Locus of Rage from exile, and then plays a Forest from exile, making a Beast token and an Elemental token. He then continues by casting Dryad of the Ilsean Grove, and he goes to combat. He swings 4 Beast tokens at Felix, and Felix blocks 2 of them, but still takes 8. With nothing else, Max passes. Felix's turn has him drawing, and then casting Orin Frostfang to hopefully draw some more, and he puts the Ronus' Monument trigger onto Aragorn, giving it +2/+2 and Trample. Felix swings the Frostfang and Aragorn at Max, and before moving to blocks, activates Rogue's Passage to make Aragorn unblockable. Max then chumps the Frostfang with his Dryad, and takes the hit from Aragorn, and with combat over, Felix passes. Seb's turn has them playing a Cabal Coffers, and once more they sacrificed a Pest token to Tevesh Zat to draw 2 and gain some life. They then play a Soul Ring, and cast Sir Conrad, and go to combat. Seb then swings Beledros at Felix for 4, who takes the hit for 4, and in Seb's second main phase, they cast the Meathook Massacre, putting 0 into the X. They don't need to, because they just want the enchantment on the battlefield. They then activate Bolas' Citadel, sacrificing their creatures to deal 10 to their opponents, plus get all of the damage from the Meathook Massacre and Sir Conrad, and Seb is able to take the win. Game review time. This game came over just about an hour with an hour and 7 minutes, and it was pretty sweet. I got to use Alpha Status in Omo, which is just probably one of the best beater cards in the deck, as it can turn any creature into a huge threat. And yeah, we got to see Beledros, Aragorn, and Loot in action. I think everyone's deck got to do at least something that they wanted to do, but my goodness did that Drivnod, Sir Conrad, and Meathook Massacre do a lot of work for Seb. Once those resolved, I think they had the game in the bag. And it was surprising to see so many abilities like that, but I guess since they make so many pests every turn, it makes sense to have some kind of payoff for sacrificing them. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.